Each day, men and women have a variety of responsibilities to maintain. Establishing yourself professionally and attaining a personal life of fulfillment are usually at odds in our society. These clashes can lead to an unfulfilled existence. Have you had enough of this constant discontentment? It's time to change your perspective at Live Life Wealthier. Listen in on conversations that reveal the keys to living a full life. Learn how to achieve true wealth in the 4 realms of L.I.F.E: love, inspiration, family, and enterprise. This is your guide to breaking free from a rut and maintaining a healthy balance between your personal and professional lives. Marta Skeek-Herrick is your host.
Welcome everyone to the Live Life Wealthier community. I am so excited about today's episode because you are going to meet an extraordinary man, Michael Poggi, who is a tax-free real estate investor, and he's going to show you how to create something that maybe some of you are familiar with, and others, this is a new concept, but hang on till the very end. His information insights are so invaluable. I can't wait for you to hear it. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you.
All right. So Michael. Okay. Before we kind of go in to the meat and potatoes of all this, I would personally love to hear how you got started in this. Like, what's your story? What's your history? How did Michael become Michael?
Oh, thank you so much, Marta. I appreciate you having me on the show. This is excellent. I started off as a stockbroker in Chicago many years ago as a young man, downtown Chicago. And I got a chance to work as basically a cold caller. And I learned how to find clients that wanted to invest in stocks and mutual funds. I ended up getting my Series 7 and then my Series 24 and became an owner of a brokerage firm eventually. But what I learned was that a lot of people that have tax-free vehicles like an IRA, an individual retirement account, some of them were at my brokerage firm, and then some of them were away from the brokerage firm. So I started to learn about exactly why my clients had an IRA that was not at a brokerage firm. And I realized that my brokerage firm didn't tell me all these secrets about having a self-directed IRA that was not legally at a brokerage firm or a bank, and that a self-directed IRA was something they could use to buy real estate. So as I learned about this from my clients, I started to ask my bosses at the brokerage firm, and they said, Michael, don't ever talk about a self-directed IRA in this brokerage firm again or you're fired. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what I heard. They said that, you don't want to talk about that because your clients will move their IRAs out of this brokerage firm and move it to a self-directed IRA and use it for real estate, and you'll lose the client. I couldn't believe what I heard.
Wow.
So that was quite interesting.
That's incredible. So, and I'm not going to put words into anyone's mouths here, right? But essentially, you knew what was best for the client, and you just weren't able to do that. Wow.
Yeah, I wasn't able to help the client with any real estate transactions. I was only able to help them with stocks and mutual funds. And I saw people lose money in the stock market, even though sometimes the stocks would go back up. But in a lot of cases, many people never made it to retirement because they were not able to utilize real estate as investments. They were using stocks and mutual funds, hoping that one day they would be a multimillionaire, and it turned out to be a big lie. In other words, investing dollar for dollar into stocks and mutual funds is very difficult to get to be a multimillionaire unless you already have millions to start with. So if you're trying to start, from an average person like I was, to be able to get to be a multimillionaire by investing in mutual funds and stocks dollar for dollar was not going to be the way to go. I had to shift all of my investments into real estate where I can use leverage, like where I put a deposit down on a house and borrow the rest from a bank, force appreciation by fixing it and then selling it and making a profit much faster than the stock market could ever do for me. And then I started buying vacant lots in fast-growing resort communities also, and that also accelerated my wealth. So as I learned all of this, 9 years after having those licenses and owning a brokerage firm, I sold my brokerage firm for a lot of money and I moved to Florida. And then I took all my clients that were in stocks and mutual funds and I moved them into real estate, which was the best decision I ever made. I was able to make a lot of millionaires by helping them with, like, for example, short-term, medium risk investments in real estate, like flipping and new construction, and then also long-term, very low risk, like vacant lots. And by doing that, I changed a lot of people's lives, and I have never looked back since then.
That's amazing. And it's so interesting noting that, and I'm emphasizing this here for our viewers. It's like you knew this answer and you were being tugged to move in this specific direction. And I want to point this out for entrepreneurs and listeners and business owners. Sometimes we're pulled to do something that we're called to do, and we don't always answer the call. And Michael here, he did answer the call. And what's beautiful about this, he created what's now called the Millionaire Real Estate Investment Group. And that's just one of the things Michael is involved in. So we're going to dive into that and, see what this is all about. But before I do it, I have to give a shout out to everyone in Chicago. You said you were downtown Chicago. I actually grew up in Park Ridge. Graduated from St. Paul the Cross, went to Maine South High School, went to Loyola University. So I appreciate where you're from. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. I'd love for you to accentuate, like, what really sparked your interest in vacant lot investing and led you to create this entire program that you're talking about.
Yeah, for me, it was because I knew there was a need for true investments into things that would help people. So I've helped over 3,000 students already, and I don't sell courses or books anymore. I have my books on Amazon, and I have a bestseller on Amazon called Build Wealth Tax Free. But I thought that after explaining my process to so many people, they all said to me, Michael, I would just like you to do it for me. I'd like you to find my real estate. I'd like you to, help me to evaluate it. I'd like you to help me to make sure it's a good deal and then, close on it for us and put it into my account. So we started to do a done for you program many years ago. And that was the best thing that I ever did, because giving someone the information about how to go find good deals in real estate, how to do everything with the deal is quite difficult, especially when people are busy. Maybe they're a dentist, maybe they're a veterinarian, and they don't have time to do all the stuff that it takes to find good vacant lots, for example. So by me doing it for them, I created a niche that was so big that I couldn't even keep up. I hired a whole team of people, and now we handle 60 to 100 lots a month to fill orders from investors that said, Mike, I want 5, or I want 3, or I want 10, or I want 1. And by doing that, we're helping people so they don't have to learn it, which does take effort and a lot of work to find good deals. So we basically are a turnkey done for you program now.
That's amazing. And it really speaks a lot to your heart, because you were truly teaching others to do it. And then now you're doing a done for you program, which just really speaks that you're giving and giving and giving, because this is something that works and that you strongly believe in, which is absolutely amazing.
Yep, absolutely.
So how does your turnkey done for you program allow investors to leverage their LLC or retirement funds like IRAs and 401ks?
Yes. So many people that you and I both know, Martha, do have either too much money in stocks and mutual funds and not enough in real estate, or they have no real estate at all.
That's
so
right.
What I do is I advise them as their real estate financial planner, which is just basically an expert in real estate that can help them to find real estate deals that help with 2 needs. One is short-term income, where they're looking for passive income monthly. And then the second thing is long-term growth by owning assets that appreciate quite rapidly. So I basically just really get a chance to analyze their current situation, almost just like a regular financial planner would be, but instead of recommending stocks and mutual funds and bonds, etc., I'm recommending real estate investments instead. So I try to make sure that I do the right thing always by diversifying my investors into different categories to make sure they have short-term, medium-term, and long-term, low risk, medium risk, and high risk if that's their objective and if that's their investment goals. But I've been able to help people to speed up their process by helping them use their LLC to buy vacant lots, their IRA to buy vacant lots, or their LLC or IRA to invest in new construction homes or to invest in fix and flips with us. So we allow them to come in as a partner, and either they're coming in as an equity partner or they're coming in as a lender, and we give them a fixed rate of return. Either way, there's so many opportunities, but it's pretty easy to do. It's just basically understanding everything about the client, meaning knowing everything about where their money is at now, how old they are, what their goals are, and help them to get to the finish line of being able to retire at the age that they have picked. And that's a process of calculating exactly what they have now compared to what they should have that would help them to achieve those goals.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. And do you also, Michael, invest in the investments that you sell to others?
I do. I actually have quite a few vacant lots in my own personal self-directed Roth IRA, so those are all tax-free. I also have holdings into real estate properties, houses and Airbnbs and homes that I own. I've been doing that in my LLC and also my self-directed Roth IRA, both. And I have actually bought and sold in my own IRA over 3,000 vacant lots in my career of the last 28 years. So that would be buying them, holding them for 5 or 10 years, and then selling them at a profit, and then selling them on terms to create cash flow, meaning passive income coming in from someone buying my piece of land on terms at 10% interest for 5 years, for example. So not only did I make a profit of 100% return in 5 years, which is about 20% a year, I also was able to then sell the lot on terms and be the bank from my IRA or from my LLC and collect passive income every single month until the complete loan was paid off. So I got paid twice. I got paid for the capital gains and I got paid for the interest. So between the two of those, it accelerated my IRA so fast because everything was tax-free. Every transaction that I made a profit on was tax-free. And every income that came in every month from selling lots on terms created such a massive gain with no taxes that I had to pay because I ended up doing everything tax-free. And that accelerated my wealth 10 times more than if I did everything where I had to pay taxes on every time I took a profit.
And I love that. And thank you for sharing that, Michael, because I knew that about you, but I wanted our listeners to hear that you practice what you preach. And it's so important and valuable that you have restructured your own retirement accounts to be able to follow this method, which leads me to the next question naturally. What are the benefits of vacant lot investing versus returns? You kind of mentioned it already, but let's emphasize this.
Well, let's go over an example of a typical stock or mutual fund portfolio. I know that the stock market has done very well over the last couple of years because of just complete run up, but a lot of those have been crashing down and some of those gains will be given back. So the upside in the stock market is very limited. And I feel that most people probably average around 8 or 10% return on their stock portfolio or mutual funds, where the downside is huge. You can have your portfolio drop 50% in a week from a bad report like an assassination on a president or a war or a COVID. Your stock portfolio and mutual funds could get crushed quite easily. And that's why I suggest that people only have about 5% of all their net worth in stocks and mutual funds, and probably closer to 90% in real estate, and then the other 5% in silver and gold and cash and things like that. But I suggest that people shift their monies away from the stock market because of the huge downside, and then the upside is very limited. Where on the opposite, with vacant land, for example, vacant lots have never gone down over the last 20 some years that I've owned them. They usually stay the same during a bad market. So if there's a bad market or there's a COVID, then my vacant lots don't go up. They just sit there, which is normal. And the reason why is because during that time, when there's no builders building houses in those subdivisions, there's no demand. So there's nobody fighting over the lots. No one's bidding on them. So they kind of stay the same. No one's really rushing to sell a vacant lot during a real estate downturn. They rush to sell their houses on a downturn. That's a different story. And they have to lower their house prices to get them sold so they can move or whatever they're doing. But when it comes to vacant lots, they're just sitting there. No one rushes to sell them during a bad market. So they kind of stay the same. But the upside on vacant lots is quite extraordinary. when you're in a resort community and there's permits being pulled all the time to build houses, people are fighting over those same very lots. And the prices seem to increase about 20% a year. So I've been averaging about 20% a year over the years, even during the bad times when I got zero return. The good times would make up for that. So I average about 20% a year return on my vacant lots that I buy in fast growing resort communities. And I have a certain criteria that I follow, Martha, which I think I mentioned to you before, which is a very specific criteria to stay out of trouble, to make sure I'm in the right subdivisions that have the most amount of permits being pulled, where they're under 20 grand, they're quarter acre, never an acre or 2 acres, they're always a quarter acre. They have to have more than one lake or golf course. The subdivision needs to have some houses built already. It can't be at zero where there's no roads and no internet and no electricity. It has to be in a partially started subdivision. And it has to have low taxes, low cost of living. So with all of that criteria, I had to hire a research company to tell me in the United States, where are the fastest growing resort communities that meet all my criteria? And when I found those, I started to invest in them. And sure enough, the data that I found was accurate. And I was able to enjoy about a 20% gain per year with very low downside risk. And I was able to do all of that tax-free by using a self-directed Roth IRA through an administrator.
Amazing. I want to unwind this part of the conversation just slightly to emphasize for the viewer. You mentioned resort communities. Are these
Yes.
the locations that you target for the ideal location for this type of strategy?
Yeah, and the reason why, Martha, because I've had a lot of practice investing in vacant lots that were not in a resort. So my first practice lots were in Cape Coral, Florida, Punta Gorda, Florida, Fort Myers, Florida, Lehigh Acres, Florida, et cetera, et cetera. And when I would buy lots in those subdivisions, they would go up and I would make some good money. But the fact that they were not in a resort was a big disadvantage, because the people that would buy a lot that's not in a resort would be like a typical husband and wife who are looking to build a house and maybe either move there or have it as a second home. But when it's in a resort community, your market is huge, because now a person could buy that lot just to use all the lakes and golf courses, all the amenities. Or they could buy it to build a second home, and they don't want to build a second home for 5 or 10 or 20 years from now. So the market is so big for resort lots compared to just a regular lot in any old common subdivision. So I switched from buying lots that were not in a resort to only lots in a resort for that reason, because it takes less time to sell a lot in a resort. For example, when you put a lot for sale in a resort community where someone could buy it just for the amenities and for investment purposes, that usually takes between 2 months to 6 months to sell a lot like that. But if I were in an area that did not have amenities and it was just a regular common subdivision, then it could take 2 or 3 years to sell that lot. So for me to get the money back and be able to use it again speeds up the whole process of becoming wealthy, because I have use of the money faster. The longer it's sitting on the market for sale is tying up your original investment, and takes that much longer to reinvest it again and start the next great idea.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. Thank you for mentioning that. So how does your team, Michael, source this land and evaluate specific parcels so that they're just the right fit for this program?
Yeah, over the years, we perfected a system that has become really streamlined. So right now, since I'm still buying lots for myself in my own account, and I'm buying lots for my family and friends, and I'm buying lots for all of my customers, meaning my investors, we have a system in place where our team handles all of the process. The process is as much as where we send out thousands of offers every month to vacant lot owners that are not listed on the MLS, meaning off-market property. That's very smart, because when you're trying to compete with lots that are on the market, now you're competing with many other bidders and so on, and you could end up overpaying or buy lots that are not very desirable. So we focus on lots that are not for sale, and we send out 6,000 offers a month. And from those 6,000 offers, we may get maybe 50 or 60 yeses back. And the yeses are people that have said, yeah, I would consider selling my lot. At that point, that's when the hard work starts, because now we have to have someone call those 60 people every month and discuss their lot with them. For example, we have to find out, are there any liens on the property? Do they owe any money? And many times they owe taxes or they owe POA fees or there's a lien on the property of some sort. So we have to pay for a lien search on every single lot that we are wanting to buy. So the lien search is an expense that I'm not able to avoid. Once we pay for the lien search, it may come back with liens as much as $3,000 or $5,000. And if it's too much, we have to then discard that lot and we don't buy it. And we end up losing the lien search money that we paid each time we do a lien search. But if the lot comes back with either a small amount of liens or no liens, then we go ahead and then we send out the contract to buy the lot. Then we have someone physically go visit the lot, someone that lives in the subdivision that has to walk the lot. They have to actually get out and go walk the lot. So they're walking 60 lots a month to verify that they pass my criteria, that they're buildable. They have no big ravines running through the middle so you couldn't build a house, or a big boulder blocking the entrance where it's impossible to build. So we check all that out, and we have to make sure it's big enough. It has to be at least a quarter acre. If it's too small, then we reject it. So all that process takes a team of people to go through all of that. So again, we have someone paying for the lien searches and doing the lien searches and looking at them. We have someone that is sending out the contracts, someone that's closing on the lots for me. So they go into my holding tank, my portfolio, and then they go out the next day to the investor who ordered them. So if someone ordered 6 lots, they would get the next 6 lots that come in that have passed all of our inspection processes and all of our criteria. Once that's done, the titles get transferred to that person, and then they own them free and clear without me. They own them in their IRA, tax-free, or they own them in their LLC or in their name, whatever they chose.
Amazing. And it's interesting because, I've purchased vacant lots with you as well. So I'm excited about this process. And I remember asking you, Michael, what is the process? What's the timeline and the process from purchase to sale for the investor? Can you reiterate that for our listeners?
Sure. Well, the timeline to get the lots into someone's account is about 2 or 3 weeks. It takes that much time to look at them closely and really evaluate them to make sure that I'm happy with them. But once a person owns them, they have a choice of selling them soon or late. It's up to them. They can sell them sooner or later. When they buy them at today's current price that I sell them at, they're usually at or below the market by $3,000 or $4,000. So that means that you're inheriting equity from day one in most cases. Most of the lots are selling in there for 20 grand on average, and we put them out currently around 16 or 17,000. And that will change as months go forward here. So when someone buys them, I want the person to think about, when do they need to sell them? Not when should they sell them, but when do they need to sell them? Because my biggest mistake, Marta, was selling lots too soon. So when I was younger and I was practicing, I would buy lots in a resort. And let's say, for example, at the time I was buying lots at 10 grand, and 5 years would go by and they were now doubled. They were worth 20 grand. So that's 100% return. That's nothing to complain about. That's 20% a year on average of a profit. But I went ahead and sold those lots. I sold 240 of them at 20 grand on terms. So I created cash flow at 10% interest. The problem was that 10 years later, those same exact lots that I sold at 20 are now $65,000. So, good and bad. I did good by, making a huge profit, but I could have made $4 or $5 million more had I held them longer. So the question is, for all of you listeners, when do you need the money? Do you need it to live off of when you're 70 or 80? Or like me, if you have businesses or other income from rentals or other profit, you don't need to sell the lots. You can actually just give them to your children or grandchildren, like many people do. So it'd be no different than you giving them a mutual fund portfolio when you pass away, or a stock portfolio when you pass away. So how long do we hold mutual funds for? How long do we hold a stock portfolio? So we don't buy mutual funds and 3 years later dump them all. We buy mutual funds and we hold them for 20, 30, or 40 years, or we never sell them and give them to our kids. Same thing would apply to vacant lots and resorts. As houses get built all around your lot, and pretty soon you're the last lot left in the subdivision, that lot could be worth $150,000. So if you pay $20,000 for the lot and it's worth $150,000, no one says you have to sell it. If you sell it, you have a capital gains tax unless it's in a Roth IRA. So you're better off holding it unless you need to live off of that money. If not, then you would just give it to your children as an inheritance. And I would rather give my kids vacant lots than mutual funds any day, because the markets will change where land will continue to go up. even in bad markets, land will still be valuable to keep and hold long term. I like it better than gold and silver even.
I think it's interesting that you pointed out, a lot of people, when they think of, real estate or vacant lots, they think of like, okay, well, it's just, buy it and sell it and then maybe roll it into another property. But there's a different strategy here. And what I think is beautiful that you're explaining and that you just accentuated, kind of going back to tax strategy, right? In tax strategy, you can do it for multiple reasons, right? But it's really important to marry your personal and business goals together, because once you do that, then you know what's the right fit for you and what you have to kind of, walk away from. And this is also great because when you can think of cash flow, right? That's a strategy. You can think of wealth preservation and wealth growth, but you can also think of legacy. And I think people forget that quite often, because this is a beautiful gift that you can leave to your children, and it only appreciates in value. So thank you so much for pointing that out. So I think at this point in time, I think you've got us hooked, Michael. So I'm going to ask the question that I think everyone's thinking right now. What types of returns have you gotten for yourself throughout this process? And if you're willing to share, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, my vacant lots have averaged about 20% a year. And that's from just basically doubling every 5 years. So if I buy a lot at 10, my expectation is that it would be around 20,000 in 5 years later. And that's an average of 20% a year. But obviously, if there's a COVID where nothing's happening, they'll sit there and they won't do anything. Or if, God forbid, we get into a housing crisis where no builders are building, then the lots won't appreciate because no one's bidding on them. And they'll stay the same for a while until the housing starts again. And that's been like that forever. So I get really good returns when there's building going on, more than 20%, but then I get no returns when there's no building going on, which is zero. So it averages out to be about 20% a year. And that's been like that for 28 years straight, where I've been averaging about 20% a year on my vacant lot. So that's why I stay away from the stock market. I have zero stocks, zero mutual funds, because I've learned my lesson by wasting time, wasted many years in stocks and mutual funds. I had everything. I had John Hancock, Templeton, you name it, all of them, Vanguard. And I got rid of all of them and shifted it all into real estate, where I build houses, which makes short-term gains. And then I hold vacant lots, which is my long-term gains. But if I want to sell off vacant lots for short-term, I can. But then I'm locking in 10% interest per year by selling them on terms. If I hold them, I'm probably going to make 20% a year. So selling it too soon cuts out a lot of upside potential. It does create the cash flow, but it cuts out the upside potential, because once you sell them on terms, you no longer get any of the appreciation. You only get the income of 10% per year.
Very interesting. And I have the privilege of chatting with you frequently. So I personally know that you've shared with me before that most of the locations, most of the lots you look at are in Bella Vista, Arkansas. Can you unpack that a little bit for our listeners?
One of the hottest places, Marty. You nailed it. Bella Vista, Arkansas is right near Walmart's headquarters. And Walmart, that family, the Walton family, has been investing in Bella Vista for many years. Not only does most of the Walton family live in there, so does all of the millionaires live on the lakes and golf courses in Bella Vista, Arkansas, which is 10 minutes away from the Walmart headquarters in Bentonville. So what happens is that not only do the millionaires live in there on the lakes and golf courses, you have all of the regular employees that live in Bella Vista who live in the common houses. And the reason why they live in there is because the cost of living is so low and the taxes are so low, and the affordability of buying a lot and building a house in there is so low that it's the only game in town. So Bella Vista, Arkansas has been a sweet spot of mine for many years, where I've made millions in there by just simply buying, holding, and accumulating more and more and more. So every month I buy more lots. So that's what I'm hoping for all of you, is that you can carve out money from your income every month and accumulate more land, where 10 years from now, you have 100 lots in your portfolio. Can you imagine giving 100 lots to your kids or grandkids when you pass away? That's an unbelievable strategy, is to give them that kind of a portfolio instead of mutual funds and stocks.
So do you just willy-nilly choose any old location in Bella Vista, or are there specific areas in Bella Vista that you specifically target for your program?
All of Bella Vista is fair game. all of it. And the reason why is that all of the lots in there are amazing. Only a few are not buildable. The ones that are not buildable would be either too small, like less than a quarter acre, or have a very bad ravine running through the middle. So we reject those. Now people do buy those lots, and they are for sale for $6,000 or $7,000 or $8,000 because those are called membership lots. So people can buy a membership lot that they'll never be able to build on the lot, but they'll be able to use it for the amenities. And in that case, those lots have value, but not to build a house. So we don't buy any membership lots. We buy good, high quality buildable lots that you can build a house on, even though I have no intention of building a house for myself in there. It's mainly for my kids to enjoy when they're 40 or 50 years old. They can sell those lots off at $150,000 a piece or wherever they're at that time.
Very interesting. So once these parcels are identified, how do you ensure that they're below market value then?
Well, because we're making thousands of offers a month and we're offering below market value to begin with. So when someone says, yes, I'll sell you my lot for $15,000, I know that the average price in there is, 18, 20 or 22,000. So I know that I'm getting a good deal. I have a recent list of comparables in there, about 200 of them in the last few months that have sold between 16 and 20,000. And they're all, amazing sale prices that are well above what I buy them at and what I put them out at.
So what does the purchase process look like for an investor buying a Bella Vista land parcel?
Basically do a one-on-one consultation with me so I can learn more about them. It's important for me to not just recommend something blindly without knowing, do they already have some real estate and are they looking for short-term gains or long-term growth? And do they have an IRA already? Do they have an old 401k plan or do they have a current 401k plan? So once I learn about them, I can then recommend what they can do. So for example, I can teach them how to roll over their old 401k plan to a new self-directed Roth IRA where they can use that for real estate. Or their current 401k plan where they work, they're allowed to borrow up to $50,000 per person if they have about $100,000 in there or more. If they have less than $100,000, then they'll be able to borrow a portion of $50,000, maybe $20,000, maybe $10,000. And they can use that to actually buy vacant lots. So their stock portfolio, they can liquidate stocks and mutual funds and use some of that or all of it for real estate. Their IRA, their old 401k plan, or their cash, or their current 401k plan. Those are the 4 or 5 places that I can help them with to get into real estate when they thought they could not.
Michael, I love this conversation because you are truly a wealth of knowledge. And once again, you sharing that also just emphasizes that you really walk the walk and you're an investor and an entrepreneur, but you're a teacher at heart. Like you are really pulling everyone into your world to really help them holistically, not just solving one problem. It's you're helping them see things from a different angle, which is so powerful. Thank you.
Thank you,
Wow.
Amanda. I appreciate that. And I'm glad you recognize that because I truly like to help people. As you know, both of us are big, giving, loving people. And that as we help people, we feel good about it because knowledge is power. And if I can educate people on real estate investing, tax-free investing, and how to use something as simple as vacant lots, which require no maintenance, no phone calls, no tenants, no nothing, and get 20% return for doing nothing but holding them, that makes me feel really good when I can, teach and help and educate and then transfer wealth to them.
I love that. And I think you mentioned this before, but I want to ask it again, kind of in a new light. So for future investors in Bella Vista, when you market to these future investors, what do you highlight about that community to them?
All of the amenities. There's 7 lakes, 8 golf courses, 5 swimming pools, 12 tennis courts, and 140 organizations and clubs. So there's so much to do in there. And I even get a chance to show drone videos of the whole subdivision and then videos of all the houses being built and what the lots look like. So I really do go out of my way to make sure that people can see it as if they were there. So once you get a chance to look at everything, you'll feel like you were in the subdivision like I do. And you'll be able to tell, the value of it and the quality of the neighborhoods.
That's awesome. So does your personal experience and watching investors over the many, many years you've been doing this in Bella Vista, does that help you evaluate and maximize returns for investors?
Rephrase the question. Let me understand it better.
So your expertise in Bella Vista real estate valuation, does that help you maximize returns for investors?
Yeah, but by knowing what the lots are selling at, by looking at the comparables that I study all the time, that helps a lot. And then seeing how much they've gone up since I bought my first lot in there for $2,000, almost 20 some years ago. So here we are now, they're worth 20 or 25,000. And I have lots that I've never sold all these years that I'm so glad that I didn't sell them, because I've had offers on them every single year. Offers from builders, offers from investors, trying to get them for peanuts, trying to offer me way below what they're worth just to steal them from me. And my answer is always no, they're not for sale. So you're going to have the same thing happen to you, Marta. You'll be getting offers in the mail, and people are going to say, I'll give you 2,000 for your lot or 6,000 for your lot. That's just how it's going to be. And the answer is no, they're not for sale. They're for my kids.
Interesting. Very interesting. I love that you're passionate about this and you love doing this, Michael. So one, how many years have you been doing this specific project in Bella Vista? And what do you enjoy most about helping investors in this program?
Thank you. Good question, Marta. I've been investing in real estate for 28 years, and the first probably 5 or 6 years was in those communities in Florida where they were not in a resort. My first resort was a little over 20 years ago, and that was in in Texas, in Lago Vista, Texas, where it had similar criteria: below 20 grand, quarter acre, buildable lots, 10% built out or less. And when I followed that same criteria, that's when I learned that resort properties were the best. So when I got into Bella Vista, I got in there really early on, and I've been investing in it all this time, and I will continue to invest in Bella Vista until my cost is well over 20 grand. Once that happens, I'll start the process of finding another subdivision again. That'll be probably 5 or 6 years from now, and I'll start the process of doing my due diligence and research to find a similar subdivision like that one.
I want to emphasize to our viewers and listeners here, because they know that I'm all about the formula. Once you find a formula that's successful, don't change it. Copy and paste, copy and paste
of course,
until you recreate the same results. And what I'm hearing you say, Michael, is that yes, you're in Bella Vista right now, but you've had this formula for a long time. And once the opportunities in Bella Vista are no longer available, you're going to recreate it in another community. Yes or
correct.
yes?
Yeah, just do the same thing, copy and paste, and go to another location, learn about the area, check out all the comparables, find out how long the lots stay in the market, and get moving.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So what is your program? How does your program stand apart from other real estate investment opportunities?
Well, again, I don't sell books or courses. I just basically teach people what I do.
You used to, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah,
okay.
I sold many books and courses. I still have books on Amazon called Build Wealth Tax Free by Michael Poggi. And but again, most people say to me, Mike, I appreciate all the knowledge, but I want you to do it for me. So go ahead and find the lot, and when you have them, I'll close on them. So that's how it's been working.
Yeah, I love that. So can you share with us how we can reach you and maybe get don't quote me on this, but can we get a free consultation so we can see more information and just chat with you?
Sure.
How can our viewership connect with you?
So I have a webinar every Tuesday night that showcases Bella Vista and all of my secrets and so on, where you can actually see photos of the lots, photos of the houses in there. And that is every Tuesday evening from 7 p.m. to 8:30 Eastern time. So Eastern Florida time. And that would be, to register for that, you would use buildwealthwithland.com/real estate. So buildwealthwithland.com/real estate. That would be the URL for that. And that would be where you can get on every Tuesday, 7 to 8:30, and we go over questions and answers at the end. And then from there, you're more than welcome to book a time on my calendar for a private consultation. As long as you have at least 16 grand or more to buy a lot, we'll give you a free consultation where we can explain to you how we find them, how we buy them, and how the process works. And there's no other hidden fees. There's no consultation fees asked for. And we're not going to be selling any courses. So basically, it's really helping you as an investment advisor for real estate. Same as what a investment financial planner would do, but instead for real estate. Hopefully that helps.
Oh my gosh, it does. It really does. And I love that. So I'm going to repeat the website again. It's buildwealthwithland.com/real estate. Now I have something very, very exciting to share with our listeners and viewers. Michael is going to be at our first live event on September 20th and 21st. So you get a chance to meet him in person and ask any questions you want and continue this conversation. So
Absolutely.
I love that. I love that you shared this with us, Michael, and we really, really appreciate you. Can I transition to?
I
Go
wanted
ahead.
to add one more thing, and that is that if someone cannot make it to that webinar, and for some reason that it just doesn't fit that time, maybe they have kids in soccer or whatever else is going on, they can go ahead and schedule a time on my calendar, and I could spend some time with them answering the basic questions about the program. So that would be meetwithmichaelpoggi.com. So www.meetwithmichaelpoggi.com. And that's in case you cannot join the webinar. If you cannot join the webinar, then I'll do it separately for you, where we can go over that process. And if it's something you'd like to proceed on, you just give us an order and we start to fill your order and find the lots for you and put them into your IRA or your 401k plan or your LLC.
Beautiful. Your accessibility also is a testament to, how available and how willing to help you are. So I encourage you to go on Michael's website and get some information, schedule time to chat with them, and also connecting with them at our 2-day live event. So make sure you register for the event as well on livelifewealthier.com. Now, what I also want to emphasize here, and I would love to get Michael your feedback on this and some insights. So Live Life Wealthier, right? We kind of unpack and provide our viewers and clients and listeners the formula to live life wealthier, right? We just talked about the formula, and as soon as you have it, you have to replicate it. Why reinvent the wheel, right?
Yep.
So in our world, and I'm trying to point here, I'm really bad at this still. LIFE is an acronym for love, inspiration, family, and enterprise. And I think, Michael, you have touched on all of these, right? You're giving, you're forthcoming, you really want to help others, you're inspired to do it because you're doing it yourself. And at the end of the day, money just flows because you are replicating a successful formula. So in that kind of knowing where I'm going with this, and I hope I'm surprising you with the question a little bit too, because I want it off the cuff. What inspires you, and what helps you kind of focus and move towards your goals? If you can share that with, the entrepreneurs and business owners that are listening to this, I think this is super valuable, because sometimes we really lose the momentum. Sometimes we just, we get stuck in the same old. Maybe sometimes we're seeing challenges that come across when we're trying to complete our vision. So the I in life is inspiration. So what inspires you, Michael?
Thank you for asking. Well, I'm a fairly new dad. I'm 58 years old, and I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. So that's my really, really, really motivator to really help other people, because when I help other people, I know that I'm helping my own family. Secondly, is that I'm an animal lover. I've been an animal lover since I was 5 years old, probably, and I have picked up and rescued every broken leg bird and broken wing bird and every raccoon you can imagine. So I've been rescuing animals for a little over 50 years. And right now, to this day, I have an animal sanctuary in my backyard where I rescue animals. And we mostly rescue exotic animals like monkeys, lemurs, alpacas, things like that. And of course, we have some of our own favorite pets here, like baby alpacas and baby monkeys, things like that. So on my property, we have a private animal sanctuary where we do both rescue, and then we both enjoy our own animals, our own livestock. We have chickens, ducks, geese, pheasants, peacocks, and then all kinds of exotic animals and rabbits and so on. So we enjoy animals and people and vacations and traveling.
I love that. And when my hubby and I and all our kids were passing past your house when we were driving to the Keys, you had welcomed us into your home, and we got a chance to see the sanctuary. And I have to say, it was so peaceful and beautiful. And I was surprised because I wasn't expecting what I saw. It was just so beautifully laid out, and, all the animals that you're helping. I thought that was so magical. That was so magical. Yeah. Thank you. All right. So Well, first of all, I also want to compliment your taste in clothes because we're both wearing red today. So great minds think alike.
Yeah.
But as we close, I just want to thank you again for joining us and giving us some of your time from your very busy day. And
No problem.
I
My
can't wait
pleasure.
to
I look
see
forward
you
to
at
meeting
the event.
everybody at the event. I look forward to meeting everybody.
Yes, me too. All right, wonderful, awesome. Thank you, and make sure you're living life wealthier.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode. May this discussion serve as a gentle reminder that living a fulfilling and purposeful life is possible. Take charge of your life right now by cultivating relationships, drawing inspiration, nurturing love, and expanding income streams. Visit livelifewealthier.com for additional conversations that will provide you with life-altering aha moments. That's all I have for now. Until the next time, take care.